So I went to the midnight showing of Breaking Dawn Part 2 last night, which is when it first came out, and for 12 hours before that, me and about 200 people were in the cinema watching the entire Twilight saga, from Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, Breaking Dawn Part 1, and then of course Breaking Dawn Part 2, and it was a really, really, really good environment. Everybody clapped, and bear in mind this is an English audience, so, everyone's not as, dramatic and over the top as American audiences are. But it was a really good audience. Everyone laughed, clapped, people were crying, everyone was like, whooping. It was really good. Bear in mind, I'm not a huge Twilight fan. I like the movies a lot better than the books, purely because I don't have to listen to Bella's dialogue about Edward. I'm really not interested in Edward that much. But yeah, so I'm going to give my review of Breaking Dawn Part 2, bearing in mind I saw the first 4 movies in succession for 12 hours before that. I mean, well, for, 10 hours anyway. So yeah, it was from start to finish, and everyone was really geared up, towards the end of Breaking Dawn Part 1, when, Bella's giving birth, and you see, her screaming on the inside sort of thing. Everyone was, getting really pumped up, yeah, 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 and then they did this, countdown to Breaking Dawn Part 2, and everyone was counting down, and it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And even for, non-Twilight fans, people who really don't like Twilight, fair enough, whatever, don't go, but I think Breaking Dawn Part 2 is really something that you have to see, because you want to see how it all finishes out. You want to see how Bella is as a vampire. You want to see, this change that they've done apparently in the movie. So yeah, I'm going to talk about Breaking Dawn Part 2. This is my review of Breaking Dawn Part 2, which I saw 12 hours ago, and I've slept since then. I wanted to do a review straight after I came back, but my sister was here. Would have been kind of awkward. But yeah, okay, here are my thoughts on Breaking Dawn Part 2, and I'm going to say there were going to be spoilers in this review, so if you don't want to know what's going on, there's going to be major spoilers. I'm going to tell everything that happened. A lot of it is the same as what happened in the book, but there were changes, of course, as many of you know, because, it was all over the press that, they changed the ending sort of thing. So yeah, spoilers. If you don't want to listen to spoilers, then please click away and listen to a non-spoiler review. So, for those who've read Breaking Dawn, basically go from the point where Bella first opens her eyes as a vampire, and that is where this film starts off. You have these really beautiful opening credits. I mean, it's kind of a bit, it's like this whole metaphorical thing. You see all this red text turn into white text. Obviously that's symbolic of, the human Bella turning into a vampire, the bloody human gooey Bella, whatever, turning into this strong, pristine, perfect vampire sort of thing. Obviously there's sort of racial metaphors in there that personally I don't agree with, but it was in there, it was whatever. So we start with that, and we start off with Bella opening her eyes, and you see all this beautiful, beautiful detail. Her eyes going into, the tapestry, into this text, into seeing every fragment of everything. And, one of the things that really disappointed me was the fact that we didn't see, the clones approaching, and she getting getting really, really, really defensive. She basically goes up to Edward, and she's super strong. She's pulling him into her, saying I love you and stuff like that. And it's a really tender moment. I'm not a huge fan of Bella and Edward, by any means. I'm more Team Bella, even though I think she's a bit of an idiot. I'm more Team Bella than I am Team Edward or Jacob. I'm not into that whole romance thing. So yeah, it was good to see Bella as a vampire. I'm gonna say that it was really surprising. They kind of rushed, I think, the whole first waking up scene. There's a lot of description in the book. Obviously, Stephanie Meyer uses a lot of words. She takes the time describing things. I don't really like her writing style. That's my personal preference. But I thought, with the intensity of, the love that people have for these books, they'd have something more, impactful. They would have a couple of minutes of Bella running around, taking all the smells, but it seemed she was running. It was really cool to see her running. It was amazing to see her running. There was this slow motion scene where you see her running through the forest, and then you see from her vision, and she sees everything. It's a really beautiful thing to see, but I would have loved more of that, because I'm a total special effects movie geek. I love all that kind of stuff. That scene at the end of New Moon where we see Alice's vision of Bella and Edward as vampires. I love that. That's probably my favourite bit in New Moon. So yeah, it was really nice to see Bella, finally being able to do all this stuff. And the scene, she catches a whiff of a climber who's on this cliff, and she's oh shit, and she smells his blood sort of thing. She just tears it up. She's going up the mountain, she's like climbing up, like, you know, she's like, you know, some next level, and it's so cool to see her do that. I love that about Vampire Bella. It's really cool. And yeah, then you have this whole, like, you have the scene where basically Jacob, he says, "Oh, you're still you," sort of thing. That's really cool. One of the things that really irritated me though was when they didn't really go into detail about how she had all this like super self control. Like, it was a bit more comical than anything. I really wanted them to. I personally in the book, I really wanted her to have this sort of like big struggle with her thirst, and on screen, I really wanted to see her really act it to its full potential, but it just seemed like she didn't really have to go through that. I understand that's what it's like in the book, but I think they could have put it across in a bit more of a better way before having her overcome that. So yeah, and then we see, you know, Jacob revealing that he's imprinted on Renesmee, and this scene was, I loved Bella in this scene, because she was the kind of Bella that I wanted in the first three books. In we don't really see her in Britannia. And then in the first half of Breaking Dawn, I wanted her to be assertive. I wanted her to be powerful, to stick up for herself, to be independent. I understand that it is now because she has all these vampire powers, that she's strong, she's invincible sort of thing. She's like, you know, reborn, that she has, you know, all these abilities now, that's why she's strong, that's why she's more independent, she's able to take care of herself. She's no longer the prey. But it was really good to see her in this scene because she kicked ass. She was punching Jacob, she was shouting at him, she was sticking up for what she felt passionate about, and that, you know what, I only wish that she'd done that more to Edward, and it kind of irritated me because honestly I feel like Jacob's a better choice. Like, okay, I'm not into the whole romance thing, I don't really care about it, so I don't really like, you know, New Moon Eclipse. Actually, I don't like the romance angle, I don't like the scenes with her and Edward because they just bore me. Her and Jacob, they just bore me, but I think Jacob would have been a better choice for her. Because he's more real. Like, Edward just seems like, you know, he can get away with anything. So I really wish that she would have gone against Edward and said something, you know what, no, this is what I want, blah blah blah. But she seems to agree. Like, they never seem to have any arguments whatsoever in this last film. And you know what, I kind of knew it was going to happen, so I was like, whatever. I'm really over the whole Bella and Edward thing by this point. So yeah, and then like it seems like we have this whole Renesmee thing. Like, the baby Renesmee is really cute. It's really bad CGI. It's really bad special effects, but it's like, you know, it's whatever. It's for some reason, I don't know why, you know, the special effects are so bad sometimes. I would have thought they had like the best state of the art technology considering the budget, considering this is like one of the best selling movie franchises of all time, perhaps behind like Harry Potter and Twilight sort of thing. So I don't know what it was with that. And then, yeah, you have, like, it was really sweet to see, you know, Bella finally meeting her baby, finally bonding, and that was a really beautiful moment, I thought. So, yeah, and then, you see, like, Renesmee growing. Honestly, like, the second half of the book is all about Renesmee. Renesmee as a beautiful human being. Like, you see Bella completely in love with this child, like, which is completely natural. I mean, obviously, it's her child, it's her flesh, it's her blood, it's her daughter. But I didn't get that vibe in this movie whatsoever. It just kind of felt like it was more about the threat to Renesmee, obviously being the Volturi, other than Renesmee herself. And considering that Renesmee is a new sort of breed species of, you know, person, she's half vampire, half human, which is extremely rare. It's never been heard of before. I thought there would have been more focus on it, considering it's been like, what, 4 years, 5 movies. We've had, you know, constant humans, constant vampires, constant werewolves. I really would have thought they'd put more emphasis on this whole, you know, half mortal, half immortal thing. So I was kind of disappointed that they didn't. I thought Renesmee had much more presence in the books. But it has been quite a few years since I read the book, and I don't really care to read it again. So she seemed very passive. She seemed like, you know, she seemed like the sort of central core to this movie, in that she was the reason everything happened, but she was just there as a kind of plot device. But not a plot device, as in, like, she was important, but she didn't really have much presence. So I was kind of like, And we only saw one example of her sort of supernatural abilities, where she was jumping up, catching a snowflake. Of course, that's when Irina, one of the Cullen's vampire cousins, sees this child. She's like, oh my gosh, it's a vampire child, what the Cullen's done. In the book, I believe that Renesmee drinks blood and human food, and obviously it's a child actress, and you show the child on screen, so you have to kind of limit the sort of violence you put with children. But I really would have liked to see a bit of, you know, more interaction with Renesmee's vampire side, because she seems kind of human in this, and it was like, weird. And obviously, yeah, and then we have like this whole build up, all these vampires come in. Some of them were really stereotypical, like for example the Amazonian vampires. Honestly, I was kind of offended by that, because you see them coming in like rushing in like, you know, mad women, like you have all these like monkey jungle songs playing as they're running. I was thinking, really, not everyone who lives in the Amazon is a barbarian as they were making them out to be. So yeah, and then like when they were collecting vampires from other corners of the world, you see Rosalie and Emma um, go to this guy called I think it's Garrett. I think it's Garrett. Yeah, Garrett. He's like this sort of American vampire. He hates like the British, and he's like catching this like British singer, and he goes and eats him. And instead of like going to stop him, I understand that like Rosalie and Emma are vampires. Obviously, it's in their nature to, you know, drink blood or whatever. But instead of stopping him, they actually just let him drink him. And I was like, and you're making these out to be the good guys? Nah, something's not right with this. So yeah, they have like all this collection of vampires, whatever. And then the Volturi family come. The film actually feels really short. I mean, there's not really much that happens. It's sort of like sitting around like procrastinating, whatever. Things seem to get solved really fast, which is kind of irritating. I mean, this whole thing with like Jay Jenks, no, it just seemed like a scene that they wanted to be over and done with, which is kind of irritating. But anyway, the meat of the movie was the end part, and everyone who's seen this movie knows what I'm talking about. And this part was what I've been waiting for. And honestly, I didn't know if they were going to do it, but I heard there were going to be changes, and I'm really glad that this happened. Really hit me hard, but I'm really glad this happened. So basically, you have like the Volturi, the entire Volturi, like 100 vampires, maybe. And then you have like the Cullen clan and all their friends. There's like 30 of them or whatever, and the wolves. And basically, they're all given evidence to show that Renesmee is a human and a vampire, not a vampire child. And Aro, and then Alice turns up. She, you know, after she's disappeared, Alice turns up. She shows the vision, and then she says, "Oh, but even though you know this, you're still gonna attack." And then I can't remember what happens. I think Aro does something like to Alice, and then you see Carlisle, the most calm, passionate character, the most tender-hearted character in this series. You see him go mental. He runs forward. You see the rage, the ire on his face, and him and Aro jump in the middle of the air, and all of a sudden you see Carlisle's body just like drop. You see it drop, you're like, what on earth? And then you see the camera pan down, and in Aro's hand is Carlisle's head. Everyone in the movie theatre screamed. I gasped. I was like, what the fuck? I was so upset. I was so angry. I was actually crying. I was like, no, not Carlisle. Like, it's just one of those things that you don't expect to happen. Like, it just hits you out of nowhere. I was like, oh my god, Carlisle, no! Like, I care more about Carlisle than I do about Edward, Bella, Jacob, Renesmee put together. I love Carlisle so much. And I was like, are you, oh, I was devastated. And then this whole massive, huge, epic battle starts happening. You have vampires acrobating everywhere, ripping people apart, werewolves tearing at people, Jacob and Renesmee running off, Bella, you know, kicked some serious ass with her love shield, you know, like, and then they burn Carlisle. They burn Carlisle's body, so he's dead. He's completely finished. You see Jasper get ripped apart. He dies. You see Seth, as a wolf, get killed. You see Leah fall into, like, the crack in the earth that, Benjamin, this, like, Egyptian vampire with elemental control, and he creates this crack in the earth. You see Leah, in a wolf form, fall down to the crack in the earth. Loads of vampires fall into the crack in the earth. There's, like, all this fire going on. You see Edward fall down, and I was like, oh my god, Edward's gonna die. You see Alice, having seen Jasper just get killed in front of her eyes, she went mental. She went after Jane, and Jane was just, like, dumbfounded. Jane was, like, a human. She was like, what on earth is happening? It was immense. Everyone was dying, and you just see Edward crawl back up from the earth, and, you know, I think him and Bella go for Aro. Caius dies. I think Caius is his name, and the other one, Marcus. I think Marcus is his name. I'm not really sure. He dies, and you see Bella and Edward going towards Aro, like trying to take him on. Aro flips them off. You know, Edward grabs Bella, it does a roundhouse kick with her, smashes him in the face. Bella jumps on top of Aro, and at this point, everyone was like screaming, going, "Kill him, kill him, kill him! Fucking get him!" Because everyone was so riled up for the fact that Carlisle had been killed. Oh my god, it was just so. Oh wow. You see, Ella and Edward, Bella and Edward working together, smashing Aro to pieces. Ario's head gets burned. Ario's head gets torn off. Like, everyone's dying. Like, everyone is dying. You're thinking, what on earth has happened? This did not happen in the book. This is what I was wanting to happen in the book. But honestly, I was really upset about Carlisle. Like, my heart was thudding. Everyone just... I can't even explain that moment in the cinema. Everyone in the cinema gasped and screamed and was like, no, what the fuck? Everyone was like screaming, saying, go on, kill them all the Volturi, kill them all. Everyone was rooting for the Cullens and all their friends at that point, and it was such an amazing moment to see. And it was just a really great fight scene. It was fantastic. And you see, you know, a close-up of Arrow's dismembered head and Bella going in with a torch and sort of set him on fire to kill him. And everyone's going, yes, yes, yes. And all of a sudden it cuts back. And it cuts back to Alice with her hand in Arrow's hand. And it was all just, it was all that fight scene, Carlisle dying, everything happening was her vision. And everyone was like, oh, everyone was shocked, gasped. Everyone was like relieved, but it was horrible because it was just like one of those moments where you're on the edge of your seat and you're like, oh my god, everyone's dying, stop, please stop, please stop. Like, I don't really care about Bella, I don't really care about Edward or Jet, I don't really care about any of these characters, but to really have someone like Carlisle, who's perhaps the most humane character in this book, to have him, you see him, you know, grow so passionate, and I think you see Esme dying as well. I think Esme dies, or does she? I can't remember. And you see him go in and he's so angry. You've never seen this side to Carlisle before. You'll probably never see it again, obviously not, because he dies. And then you see him, it was such a horrible moment. Like, it was like, no. Like, it just that moment that you see his head in Arrow's hand, like, I was in, like, my heart stopped, and I cannot emphasize that. I was horrified. And then it was just so good to see, like, you know, basically Alice says to Arrow, this is what is going to happen. You're all going to die. Some of us are going to die, but you're all going to die as well. So basically, with her vision, it was a horrible thing to have to watch because I thought it was real. I thought it was real, and I was mortified. And then you see Alice saying to Arrow, this is what's going to happen if you are intent on killing Renesmee. So it goes back to the books then. And everything works out fine. The Volturi retreat. Bella and Edward get to live their normal happy life. The Cullens get to live their normal happy life. And you see, you know, this future vision. Alice has this future vision of Renesmee and Jacob living on the beach when they're older, meeting up with Bella and Edward, which is nice. It was kind of weird because obviously Alice can't see Jacob, Alice can't see Renesmee either, but therefore she shouldn't have been able to see Edward or Bella, but it was whatever. And then it ended on a really nice note. We didn't stay for all the credits, we stayed for some of the credits. I really wish we would have stayed for all of them because there's probably an extra scene at the end or something, but it was really nice seeing that they ended on it. It was Bella and Edward in the field again, and she was releasing her thoughts to him, and she showed him all the love she had for him, all the moments of them together from the previous 4 movies. It was really nice, even though I'm not a fan of the whole thing, as I said. And all the family, like, works out really well, and it all has a really happy ending. You see all the cast from all the other films, like, you know, James, Victoria, Laurent, you see all these people from the entire Twilight saga. And yeah, it was a really nice experience to be in that cinema, to watch this series with people that obviously for a lot of people it's a very important thing. It's affected a lot of people's lives. Like when I was younger, I read it. I think, how I think I was. It was like I was in year 10, so I would have been 15. So it was like 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago that I started reading Twilight and fell in love with it. And I was excited for the first movie. By the time the second movie come out, no, I kind of went off it. Like I was one of those idiots that was like, bashing on Twilight constantly, sort of thing. And then then I just learned to get over it. And now I'm just like, you know what, Twilight's one of those things that it's not bad to like it. It's really not wrong to like it at all. Like whatever you want, but just don't bash other people for their taste. Don't like shove the fact that you love Twilight in people's faces. That's my opinion on it, but it was really good because I went with my sister, I went with two of my friends, one whom I live with, one whom I used to live with for 2 years. We're all friends, and then one of the girls' sisters as well. So it was just 5 girls, and we all had, one of the girls brought her suitcase. She had a duvet, like a cover inside it. I had a blanket for me and my sister, 2 pillows. We had quite a lot of food. We had like drinks, popcorn, nachos, chocolate. It was really good. Just to spend that time together, you know, cheering with all the other people. Obviously, everyone was like really pumped up for this, thing that was going on. It was really good. Honestly, like that. Um, I say that I wouldn't do it again, but I mean that as in I wouldn't do the whole Twilight watching saga again at the cinema because I've been through the whole experience now. I've seen all the films maybe like 2, 3, 4 times each, so it's not that many. I don't like sit there and watch them religiously or anything like that, but I've seen them quite a few times, and I know what's happening. So I was really excited for Breaking Dawn Part 2. And now that I know how it ends, I know what happens. There isn't that suspense anymore inside me. Obviously, the whole like suspense thing completely ramped up when it got to the end of Breaking Dawn Part 2 with the whole fight scene that was just really a vision. But it was such an amazing moment to be with like 200 people and my friends and my family in the cinema and sharing that experience together. It was really good for a series that everyone, like, a lot of people love, a lot of people hate, but it was really good because it really united us, I think. It really brought us together, and it was just such a good, it was good. Like, honestly, if I didn't know what was going to happen in Breaking Dawn Part 2, I'd probably do it again because though it was very long and sometimes it felt like it dragged a tiny little bit, especially during the first Twilight film because I didn't realise it was actually that long. I thought it was a lot shorter than it was because it seemed to move pretty fast at first, and then I was like, actually, I've got about another hour and a half left of this. It was kind of weird. Sorry, I just got a text message. But yeah, and yeah, it was really nice. So honestly, I say that even if you're just a moderate fan of Twilight, if they happen to be doing another marathon wherever you are, I'd say go and see it because it's worthwhile. Go with like your friends, your family. Don't go by yourself unless you really want to. I honestly don't go by yourself because you might get a bit tired. When you're with other people, it's really good to see like the anticipation, the feelings, like discussing it, like egging each other on, sort of like sharing your feelings. It's really good. It's a really good bonding experience. Even if you don't particularly like the main characters, it's really good. So honestly, Breaking Dawn Part 2 finishes off this phenomenon, I'd say, and it's kind of like Harry Potter, and I know I shouldn't compare these two because they're nothing alike, and honestly it really bugs me when people compare Harry Potter to Twilight because they're in the sort of same like youth literature genre, but they're completely different. But on the terms of success, obviously they're very similar. They're extremely similar. It's like with Harry Potter. Now that it's over, you don't really hear much about it, and that's kind of sad to me because it's one of those things that when it was happening, it was such a beautiful experience. It was like everyone was, it was amazing. It was just so wonderful to just, it was really good. And then now it's over, you kind of look at it and you're like, you don't have that excitement anymore. Like, I can read the books and go back and be like, wow, I love this. Like, I'm actually reading the series again. I'm through Chamber of Secrets, I think. I'm going through Chamber of Secrets. But I really hope that Twilight isn't one of those things that now the movie's over and done with, that people are going to forget about it. Because I really think that even though that I don't agree with the sort of messages, I don't agree with this whole blind love aspect. I don't agree with that, but I think it's something that really makes people happy. And for that, I think it's worth it. I don't think Twilight, encourages teen pregnancy. I don't think people are so gullible and soluble enough to read something and do it just because it says. I understand that Twilight glamorizes a lot of things, but teenagers are teenagers. They're always going to do stupid things no matter what you give them. It probably would have been the same during the Romeo and Juliet era. So these people are going to grow up. They're going to probably have this love for Twilight like the love I have for Harry Potter. They're going to grow up and they're going to, take it sensibly. And I think now is the best time to enjoy it, because obviously the series has just come to a close. Fortunately, we still have some time in which people can still experience it, because obviously the movie just came out today. So, that's a really good thing. And yeah. So you got a bit of time until the whole thing blows over. Then of course you got the DVD release, whatever. But this is essentially the beginning of the end of the Twilight series, and I think people should make the most of it for what it is. People should enjoy it. The movies overall aren't particularly Oscar winning, not by any means. But there's something that you can enjoy for what it is, and yeah, it's really good to see Bella, I think, even though I think she's a bit of an idiot, go from being this pathetic, she's kind of pathetic, yeah, she's pathetic, a teenage girl, to a woman who, even though the only reason she becomes like that is because she's now strong and whatever, now she has, now there's nothing stopping her, even though it's not like a personal development, even though there's no character development, even though the reason she's like this is because she's literally undergone a change. I think it's really good to see Bella become someone different, and become someone who sticks up for what she believes in, and who has family values. And I don't mean traditional family values, I just mean the fact that she values her family, she values her friends, she values humanity, I think. Not on a level that I'd personally agree with, but I think she values humanity in that she just wants to get on with her life, really. And honestly, I really don't think it's anyone's business if it's with Edward or Jacob or whatever, because she's not harming anyone. I think people should stop hating on all these Twilight fans. I think Twilight fans should stop shoving their opinions down people's throats. I think everyone should just get along, watch Twilight for what it is, form your own opinions on it, but don't be so hateful, because at the end of the day, it's a book series. It's a movie series, it brings people together, and we should just be grateful for that. So yeah, this is my review of Twilight, the Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn Part 2, released today on the 16th of November 2012, that I saw at 1 minute past midnight. It's about 2 hours long. Overall, a solid end to a series. Not as cathartic as perhaps Deathly Hallows Part 2. Again, I don't like comparing these, but it's the nearest comparison I can make, the most relevant comparison I can make. Not as cathartic as Deathly Hallows Part 2, but definitely a good ending to a series that has touched a lot of people's lives. So yeah, go and see it for that. Enjoy yourself, don't be hating on anyone, and have a really good time. Go see this movie. I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I'm gonna start rating the movies all the books and movies and games I do. So yeah. So enjoy it. Thanks for listening. Hopefully I'm gonna be reviewing Assassin's Creed 3 next, which I think I'm almost done with. I'm on sequence 9 out of 12. So yeah, thanks for listening. Have a good time. Breaking Dawn Part 2 is a 7.5 out of 10, and yeah. Bye.